and welcome back to my channel. Productivity is a big part of my channel, and today I want to share a book that has changed my own productivity. I'm going to break this video into 4 different parts so that you can increase your own productivity. Let's go ahead and dive in. First thing that we're going to be talking about is understanding your chronotype. What is a chronotype? And a chronotype is understanding your body's natural preference towards alertness and towards sleep. And this is pretty influenced by genetics, ultimately affects sleep, performance, activity, etc. Hank has a link to a quiz that you can take on his website, so I'll link that down below. But I also think that you can figure it out based off of the way that I describe the chronotypes that he talks about in his book. The first one is owls. And this is exactly what you'd expect it to be. It's someone who is a night owl, someone who is more productive in the late evening hours. And then there is lark, which is the complete opposite, someone who is productive in the early morning. And third birds are pretty much everybody else who are not late night owls or like early morning larks. I'm a third bird, you're probably a third bird if you're watching this. So how do we optimize our daily performance? Now that we know our chronotypes, what does this actually mean? How do we use this throughout our day? And it's important to note that there's 3 different stages of the day. There is first the peak. This is where our mood is rising. There is our trough, which is the middle of the day where your mood is going down, energy is going down. And then lastly, there is the recovery where your mood goes back up. With all 3 of these, they start their cycle in the peak and then go to the trough and then go to recovery. But we'll speak with third birds, for instance, for now as our example, just because I'm a third bird and you probably are too. For third birds, since their peak is the morning, that's their best time to do any analytical tasks. During their trough, when their energy is plummeting, the best time for them to use that time is for admin tasks. So things that don't take a lot of brain power and kind of be on autopilot for. And lastly, the end of their day and their recovery period, it's going to be insightful and creative work. So let me give you an example of how I've used this in my own life. I'm a senior administrative assistant at work, and something that I have a regular recurring meeting on my calendar is every Tuesday at 10 a.m. where I submit my expense reports and my leader's expense reports. It is a big responsibility, a lot of things involved. So this is an analytical task that I prefer to do in the morning when my brain is at its best. Then in the middle of the day during my trough is usually when I handle those admin tasks that are really easy. So at work, maybe it's like getting someone building access, or in my personal life, maybe it's like sending that one email. Ironically, that would be the time that I commute home because I know I'm gonna be the most unproductive of the day, but that's not really how corporate America works. So at the end of the day, when I'm in my most insightful and creative time, that's when I'm doing my YouTube channel work. And I think part of that is also because I work a 9 to 5 where I have to be in person. And so it's like, well, when else would I do that? At the same time, I do believe that that is when I'm more creative and more insightful. A lot of studies that show that this is true. We start our days and we are more upbeat and positive, and then by the end of the day, we are lacking a little bit of energy. One example of this is the University of Chicago found that scheduling math classes in the first 2 periods of the day rather than the last 2 significantly boosts students' GPAs. They also can dictate how certain meetings go. So if you're in corporate or wherever you may be where you have an important meeting, an earnings call, a team huddle, maybe an interview, schedule it for the morning. People are more positive and upbeat versus studies have found that those earnings calls, huddles, whatever they may be in the afternoon are a bit more negative and lacking a little bit more energy. And lastly, this is also true for doctors and hospitals and nurses. Just like us, they're people too, so they also go through their trough period. At late afternoon is the most perilous time of the day in these hospitals. Researchers have found that there are more surgical errors in hospitals in the late afternoon versus in the early morning. So maybe schedule those doctor's appointments, those interviews, whatever it may be, for the early morning. And let's talk about how do we enhance productivity and well-being? How do you get through that trough? And the key here is breaks. Pink suggests that you take 5-minute micro bursts of activity to increase your concentration and your motivation. So what does this look like? Hour you have a cup of water or beverage, whatever it may be, and you refill that every hour. This could also look like 5 minutes of sitting outside on your balcony or petting your dog, whatever it may be, but just something where you're moving your body. It's a burst of energy, an action. He also suggests that taking social breaks are better than solo breaks. So I know that you're probably putting off those water cooler conversations with your coworkers, but those are actually better for you than taking a solo trip by yourself. And another thing to note is that he talks about going outside is better than staying inside. And so that leads me to lunches. Lunches are so important. I know people say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but Pink debunks this. He says that there's no research that shows that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. This is also a pivotal time in your day to take a break, step away from your desk, and go sit somewhere where you can maybe get some fresh air or just a different vicinity than where you're normally working. If you can take that lunch break with people, that's even better. Last thing that he talks about with beating that trough is that he talks about naps. I'm not a napper, but I know a lot of people are, and he says that the best duration for a nap is between 10 and 20 minutes. And for the people who are the ultimate nappers, he suggests the nappuccino, which is you have a cup of coffee, and then by the time the 20 minutes of the nap is up, you are really feeling that caffeine and you're right awake all over again. And the last bit here that we're going to talk about, living with your chronotype and other tips. And something that Pink mentions too is that endings are powerful. Several studies have shown that we tend to elevate the quality of a meal, a vacation, a movie, but not by the full experience, by a certain part of the experience, most notably the ending. This is a problem because it can cloud our judgment, our perception of our own memories, and make us ignore the whole of what happened. So let me give you a real life anecdote. Luke and I, we went on vacation last year, and we knew our trip home was gonna be the hardest flight of the whole thing. We had like one connecting flight. It was also a red eye. And so our flight didn't leave until 9 p.m. We had to check out by 11. So we just had a whole day where we didn't really know what to do. Get to the airport and his name is wrong on his boarding pass. And that was a whole thing in terms of, can he actually get on the plane because his name is wrong? And then we got on the plane, and then mid-flight, the alarms in the plane are going off and something has like detached from the exit door. All the flight attendants came out. I think even like a co-pilot came out to check the issue and see what it was. Like, I've never seen anything like that happen before. At the time we landed, we still have 3 hours for our next connector. So it was just an amazing vacation that was just clouded by the ending. This is a good moment to think about if you have a vacation where you can take the easy flight on the way there or the easy flight on the way home, take it on the way back so that your ending isn't clouded by a terrible flight experience. Or you're leaving work, instead of writing all the things that you didn't get to, maybe make a list of all the things that you did get to. And that will help rewire your brain to think the ending of the workday was good because I got all these things done. And the last thing that I want to make note of, back and forth on even including it, because I think it's the hardest thing to implement in your life if you are looking to implement any of this into your life, and it is the power of group timing and synchronicity. Coordinating and synchronizing with others is a powerful way to lift your physical and psychological well-being. This can look like many things, but the examples that he provides are if you enjoy singing, joining a chorus, if you're a musician in a band, if you're into rowing, joining a rowing team, if you enjoy cooking with a friend, a loved one, taking a cooking class, taking a dance class. I think that this one's the hardest to implement into your life, but it also has some of the best effects on your physical body and your mental well-being. So maybe you should take that dance class or that cooking class that you've been thinking of taking. All right, and that is going to conclude today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And I know I'm not like a book reviewer or anything, but this was a fun video to make. I've been really hanging on to a lot of what I learned from this book for so long, and it feels good to share it with the world and to share my key takeaways so that you can bring more productivity into your daily life. So I hope that you enjoy. I will see you next time.